Hi everybody, this is Bee from Sorcery Soap, and I just thought we should have a little chat. I felt like chatting with you all, and I haven't done it in a while. And also, I wanted to show you some of the things I'm working on. So, I'm working on, I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Anyway, I'm working on these soap stamps, and I create these little individual stamps. Anyway, this is the little dog stamp, this guy right here. This has soap in it, which I need to get out. And I either buy the copyright, not to sell the image itself, but to create things from the image, or draw them myself. And then I adjust them so that they'll work with a soap stamp or soap, because there's some things that I've learned over this last year. I don't know if some of you know this, but I just started this last year doing these. I did wash these. I just didn't do it with my glasses on. And now that I have my glasses on, I can see I have soap in here, so these are going to have to be scrubbed again before I use them. Anyway, a friend, Katie Mango from Bear River Soaps, visited me this last April. So there's lots that's happened this year. It's crazy. I can't even believe all this stuff has happened. But I wanted to give you a catch up and maybe hear what your comments are, what your ideas are for the upcoming year for your own little soap business, or whatever your life is about, or anybody that follows or watches. I got kind of overwhelmed and in the weeds this last few months. And anyway, so I met Katie at a craft show last year. Was it last year? I think it was like right around the holidays. Anyway, I met her and we hit it off right away, and then she came to visit me. She lives a couple hours away from me, and she came to visit, and then we started talking about stamps. I didn't even know. I'd only been doing stencils. I didn't know anything about stamps. I kind of dreamed about it. And then she introduced me to somebody she knew, and then he makes the stamps for us, and I design everything. So this one's my little stamp. I have worked on this. I don't know if I like it or not, but it's a little queen bee. I stamp. These are all my samples, by the way, and I'm started making them a little bit thicker, and these are going to discolor, as you can see, but I think that's so interesting, like how it discolors where this is. I imagine this whole thing is going to change to the color of the outside eventually, so that's why I'm putting black on the inside so you can see the stamp a bit more. So the interesting thing about stamps is, well, first of all, I love detail, and just forgive my fingers. It's really dry and my fingers are cracked. I've been doing lots of work. Anyway, so I love the detail of stamps. And anything that I can do to make a soap highly detailed, I'm like really interested in. So this year I made these guys. I think they're really fun. This is Apple Cider and Oak from Midwest Fragrance Company. And they have just been my new go-to fragrance oil company this year. I just love them. I made a whole bunch of these. A friend of mine gave them as gifts for her kids this year. And I didn't put the top on it like this. I've actually broken it off, and then I glued it back on with water. But this one's just mine. But this was a stamp. I stamped these and then filled them in. And then I recreated this guy on the front, on the face of it, on the other side for the other soaps. I don't have those with me right now. Anyway, so I just have been working out the idea of a stamp, and not all stamps are equal. I mean, some of them will work really well, and some of them won't work really well. Here, let me show you some of these. So, and they take time to cultivate, like this guy. I just think that's so beautiful. It's an Art Nouveau dragonfly, and I worked on it for probably 6 months to try and get it so it works. And what that means is that I have to buy stamps, test the stamps, test it in soap, and then see if it actually works and comes out. And somebody who's not quite as fiddly as I am will want to do it. And this little guy, I saw this as a tattoo. A couple people on the internet have put this up as a tattoo, and I thought maybe I'd offer just a few of these. I'm not really sure, but I did the bad angel and good angel, and I thought I would stamp on either side, but then I got carried away and my soaps kind of hardened, so I didn't stamp them. And then, you know, as far as stamping goes, there's a certain feeling now that I'm getting about the soaps. So these soaps I made, I didn't put any sodium lactate in them, although I can and still stamp them. But what I noticed with the sodium lactate, because the sodium lactate makes the bar harder and creates a skin faster on the outside of the bar, they're harder to stamp with sodium lactate. So these are just with fragrance oil and my regular recipe that I use for soap dough. And I stamped these, so I stamped these maybe a few hours or the next day after I cut them. And so that it gets a skin on it, but it doesn't crack as much. The sides crack only because, see where the skin is, and then the stamp fell over the edge because I haven't come up with a exact, you know, I like them really thick like this, so I can't make them much bigger. They won't fit in my packages. So that's a pickle. But, so then these, here's my examples. These are soap dough that I stamped into soap dough, and those come out really nice and clean. And then I'll back them with a scented soap on the back side so that they're actual scent samples. So that's the other thing too I realized this year is that, you know, I've always struggled with making samples and making them scented. And the reason I don't scent my soap dough, it is entirely possible to scent your soap dough. The reason I don't do it is because consistency, I run into fragrance oils that it says, you know, the fragrance oil company does everything they can, and they're not inclined to understand what I use soap for, cold processed soap. So one of the things they do is, you know, they say it won't accelerate or discolor or anything, but because I get in there and touch it, and I touch all the soap so much more than if somebody was just cutting a bar of soap, they don't see that some soaps, that some fragrance oils that they say don't accelerate actually do accelerate, but don't cause the acceleration that we understand as acceleration. And here's what I mean is that fragrance oil, if attaches to the soap inconsistently, when you touch it, you're going to get lumps in there. And then sodium lactate, you know, we do a lot of different things to our soaps in order to achieve the look that we want or the consistency or whatever. And so if I put sodium lactate in my soap and fragrance oil and try to stamp it, then I'm going to get an inconsistent quality. And it's just, and everybody's nose is so different that it's so hard to offer fragrances in soap dough that everybody would like, because then what happens is, you know, I like pink grapefruit, not everybody likes that, so I'm stuck with a bunch of soap dough scented with pink grapefruit. Nobody cares because they want to use their colors, for example, on a variety of different soaps. So it's just better to keep it unscented. But for me personally, when I offer soap samples that are scented, so what I'm going to do is use this and then attach this to a sample. I'll cut it and clean it all up and everything, and a scented sample. And I think I could do that. Well, I mean, I know I can do that, but I don't have any soaps in my queue right now that I want to make. So these I'll just fill in and leave them, and then it doesn't matter if they're hard because the soap dough is, you know, malleable and it'll attach. Anyway, I'm rambling. But I just wanted you to hear some of the stuff that I've been working on this last year, which is all these stamps that I just have like hundreds of new stamp designs. And even with having all these stamp designs that, like this one, it took me a while to work this guy out. And this love cat tree. And because I couldn't quite get all this to work correctly, the way I wanted it to work. And because I use these all the time, and maybe you'll use them once in a while, I have a different understanding and feeling about the stamps. So I want to bring all that experience to the table so that, you know, when you look at this, when you use one of these stamps, you're going to get like a surefire stamp, because maybe you only want one. I mean, I have hundreds and I still get bored with, you know, the ones that I use. So I can imagine. So I'm trying to do, so here's one. I kind of missed the mark with some of these Christmas ones, but I'll be ready next year. And then, you know, but that comes out so nice. Let's see, do I have it here? I like the good and the bad angel. But anyway, I wanted to show you some of the things that I've learned. Oh, and we moved this year, so that was a big deal. It was a super big deal, big pain. Didn't want to have to move, but oh, here it is. There's the angel. Look how nice and crisp that is. Even if I didn't fill it in, I mean, if I got that, I would be super happy. I just think that's so beautiful. Just a little angel. And then this one, we've had quite a bit of controversy over it in our household. My guy said, "Nah, nobody wants that." And I was like, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I worked on this a few months to try and get it. And this is like my third iteration of this to make sure that it all comes out. And I don't even have any filled in here. Of course I don't. But anyway, so, and then this dragonfly, oh, isn't that cool? I'll scrape that off so you can see. So I just filled these in and then went and started the car and brushed it off, and because I live in a place that's cold now, which I love. We have a proper winter. So this has been setting for a little bit, so I'm just going to soften the soap dough that's on here. And I got this new palette knife. So here are the two palette knives that I use mostly. These are the ones I use mostly. Clean this off. Okay, so this one's for taking off a lot of it, obviously, and this is for a little bit more detailed work. And then I bought these two, but I don't really use these very much. This one specifically is almost too little, like it dings in a little bit too much. This one is okay. It's like this, but only smaller. And I'll show you how I work this. So let me see. Here we go. So I take off the excess because I want them to be flat and smooth like this. This is flat and it's relatively smooth. And then there's always this fine balance of taking off enough to reveal what's underneath without digging in too much so that you take away your stamp. So I can't really teach you that, but I can show you how I do it. And I'm just tipping it because I can't see. This is so bright in here so you can see what I'm doing. I can't really see because of the reflection of the water. And it seems like I'm taking a lot off, but I need to get to the bottom of this reveal thing. So I got, a friend of mine asked me to create a stamp for her, and I did that, and then she wanted 200 soap samples in a scent that she created, because she's my friend, that she comes over here and I just spilled my water because I'm a klutz and I have everything close so that I can show you what I'm about. Anyway, so she came over here and she picked out a combination wild sage and white tea from Midwest that I was really surprised by, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is just amazing. So I did a bunch of soaps for her, and I ended up, because I was trying to get my soaps uniform, I ended up making 280 or so of these stamped soaps, about this big actually, and filling each one in with soap dough. That took me weeks to do. I was really surprised. I mean, granted, I don't work 8 hours a day on it. I have a million other little tasks, but, oh, and I use this tool too. This is a Wilson, was it Wilson? Wilton, I'm sorry. Wilton, it's a baking tool. You can get them at, they come in a group with other things in them. You can't just buy this tool in and of itself, but it's super helpful. It's lightweight and it has like a needle on the end, and I can't tell you how many times I've stabbed myself with that. Anyway, I go in and clean this up a bit. And so we created all these, and I made these 4, and then there was a party and I went to, and she gave away, oh, it's so fun. And there was my soap sitting on a table. I mean, they weren't mine anymore, they were hers, but she gave them away, and I was just like, people were commenting and they had no idea, and you know, I don't do anything in person, I only do things online, so I don't really get to meet people like that in that fashion. And I made so many new friends up here, and it's just like, and then somebody stopped the other day, a new neighbor. I felt kind of bad because I haven't gone around and introduced myself to my new neighbors yet, and brought us a Christmas gift, like a whole little kit to make caramel apples, and it was just really thoughtful. And you know, we do our best not to eat sugar this year. I'm going to try and commit to not eating any sugar this year. No carbs, no sugar. I'm just I'm tired of this silly lesson that I have to keep learning. It makes me sick and causes inflammation in places I do not want inflammation. So anyway, that's one of my goals for the upcoming year. But people are so friendly, and I've made more good friends up here than I have in such a long time. I don't even know if I've ever made this many good friends. And so I have a lot of tools, so I just go through and fix this up. And I feel appreciated, I guess. And I never thought that I needed to feel that, or maybe wanted to feel that, but I do, you know. And it's given me an opportunity to be even a better version of myself, which I think is a good thing, always trying to be better than you were yesterday or a year ago. So that makes me happy. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't live here because it is pretty cold. We got a proper winter this year, and it is cold. It's cold enough that we have to go start the car every day. We don't have a garage anymore, so we moved into a smaller place, and which is a good thing to save money, especially the way the world is. Yeah, but we're in the middle of fields. Oh, beautiful, wonderful fields. If you follow me on my personal Facebook page, you'll see that I post a lot of pictures of the backyard, which is really about 100 acres of field. And so it's been a bit too cold for us to go out lately. For me, anyway. I mean, it's been so cold. But I think I will go out. So it takes us about, to get to the river that's close to us, it takes us about, deep snow, probably an hour. Is that right? Maybe. I don't know. Half an hour, something like that. But round trip, it's at least an hour and a little bit. Anyway, we've been walking back there for a bit, and so when I put the water on, it's just soften that top layer of the soap so that I can get a smooth finish on it. And I just scrape it off. And I'll show you how much I scrape off. Not very much. I'm pretty light-handed with it now. I've had lots of practice. That's how much. And then I smooth it off like this so it looks, I want that illusion that it's like, how did you do that? So anyway, I'm very happy with that. Super happy. So that little shadow right there, I would take it out, but it'll cause a dip into it. So I just as soon leave it because I like the feeling of it when you touch it. Anyway, so we went back to this river, and make sure I'm right there. Yeah. Went back to the river, and we saw these things. At first I thought they were dogs. They're so big on the edge of the river because the river's like pretty frozen. And they weren't dogs, but they were beavers. And oh my gosh, they're so big and just doing beaver stuff, you know, like pulling branches and stuff. But the second time we saw them, we saw them more fully who they were, because the first time they kind of dipped into the river real quick and, you know, just like scooted off. But the second time, I think there was a mate, and the one beaver did a tail slap and slapped the water and told his mate, and then he went back. I think it was a he, I don't know. I'm just making a story up. And then he goes back to get his wife and swim with her. I just, could have been a sibling, or I'm not a sibling, could have been a child, you know, offspring. But I just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, he or she didn't abandon the family member. I'm assuming they are family members. And it was such a great experience. We stood there for a long time and watched them do their thing and tried not to spook them too much. I think it's interesting how wild animals, most animals, even unwild animals, but animals are so scared of people. Like, where did that come from? It's not like, what if they've never, like even birds that maybe have never interacted with human beings, they're just automatically scared of people. It's like the default to be scared of people. They're not defaulted to be scared of certain animals. Like you see elk or any kind of ruminant just standing there, and the birds will land on their backs, and they're born not to be scared of the birds too much. I mean, sometimes they are. I mean, you get some fickle horses and weird baby cows that'll be a little spooked by it, but I just think that's weird. Anyway, so that's our new backyard, which is a big deal. It's a big deal. We moved from super low desert. I'm so grateful. I can't even tell you, like, seriously, it was like, I know moving is a big kerfuffle, but I kind of feel like, I mean, the friends, okay, so here's another story. So I have this new friend, well, kind of new, year-old friend. And we see each other every couple weeks, believe it or not. And her husband and my husband like each other, which is, you know, how rare that is if you're married. I mean, that's a big deal, right? So, you know, we have similar ideas about the world, and it's just the weirdest thing. Now I'll explain. Okay, so we get together and we kind of come together on ideas of health and nutrition, and they're runners. We're not runners, but still we have all this common ground. And so we start hanging out and talking, and time just flies so fast, and nobody is trying to one up each other. We're all just sharing information and laughing and having a nice time and being curious and astounded, and, you know, and talking about the things that we've learned, and cross-referencing health information and nutrition information. And it's really interesting. So he ran a big race this last year in another country. It was a big deal. It was televised. It was on, I followed the race on the internet, and I got to see him. I mean, they're in a completely another country, and it was just so cool. And then they invited us to their home to hang out with their family, and they gave us a sort of an overview of, you know, his experience of what it was like to run a 100-mile race. And, you know, so we talk about nutrition in relationship even to him, and how he manages his nutrition, which is highly specified but very similar to us. And you know, we all want to live long, healthy lives, and we're all about the same age. That's the other thing, too. We're in a group of people that are all about the same age as us, which is amazing. Like, that's just amazing. How many times, like, we've moved into a neighborhood where there's, like, very young people who don't know how to behave yet. When I say that, no offense to the young people, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying that it takes time to learn that, you know, you coming in at midnight is a little bit loud, and maybe it's a good idea to be quiet. And we live in an apartment, you know, that kind of happens. But anyway, but yeah, we live in a group of people in our whole neighborhood. Almost everybody we've met is about our age, maybe a little older and a little bit younger, but mostly our age, which is crazy and very cool. So anyway, these new couple that we're hanging out with, they invite us to do things with their family, like go to parades and stuff. And then we get to meet their family, and it's just been so fun. Like they've been so great about like bringing us into their community and being a part. I mean, they didn't know us. They just had a feeling about us. And it's just been so kind to us. And like, you know, they have a fruit harvest, and we go over and they'll give us fruit or potatoes or whatever. And then, so like I said, so for the last 12 months, every couple of weeks we hang out. And if we don't, you know, go do an event, or, you know, like the one took us at their place to cross-country skiing, which was a new event for me, and I really, really loved it. And that was fun. And she sourced the skis and everything. I mean, she borrowed them, and it was just so thoughtful and cool. And, you know, we've met tons of people. We met enough people that we gave Christmas presents away this year, which was really fun. And here, as it turns out, like, so our birthdays came along in the summer, and then we're like Facebook friends. We don't really interact too much on Facebook, but we like each other's posts and things like that. And never even crossed our minds, never even talked about it, nothing. Her birthday is exactly the same day as mine. Shut up. Come on. That is so amazing. So, and she and I are like similar build, and we have the same kind of coloring, and it's just the weirdest thing. And I just love her to death. And her husband, I think her husband's awesome, but she's my friend, and we have similar book interests, and she's very academic and politically minded and scholarly, and it's so smart. She's just so smart and kind. That's the other thing. She's so kind and patient. And she makes me laugh, and I don't know. And she's got a good, strong backbone to her, too. I just think she's awesome. Anyway, yeah. So that is amazing. I mean, first of all, in my life, I've lived a long time. I'm like 500 years old. And how often have I run across somebody who I just love that much and who has my same birthday? So I don't know about meant or supposed to be or any of that stuff, but I think it's pretty magical that we ended up here. I really do. So that happened this year. So that was totally worth it. So, you know, it was a big deal. We moved 1,000 miles from where we used to live. And some of you have already heard this. But, you know, moving in and of itself, even if you just move 4 blocks away, is a big deal. But we moved 1,000 miles without any, we didn't even have the keys to our house when we moved. All our stuff was in a truck going across the country, and we had what we had in the car. That was it. So if the truck got lost, you know, granted we had some insurance and whatnot, but, you know, it's personal things. It's all of my soaps and tools and stuff like that. And we didn't even have the keys to the house we were moving in. And I just had faith that my guy believed that that was what we were supposed to do. And it turned out. And then, okay, so then last year, I wanted to re-up the lease. We were living in a house with some land and stuff, and we had like a little greenhouse, and I wanted to re-up the lease, but they had been really reticent to give us a 2-year lease, and I didn't understand really, because I thought we were good tenants. You know, we don't have animals, and we're quiet, and we don't make a lot of noise, and we don't cause problems, and we keep things looking really good and take care of everything, and we don't damage anything. And anyway, we don't have there isn't anything, we don't have traffic at our house. We don't do anything and just whatever. But that to me is like a good tenant. See, there's a little mar right there, but I'm going to choose to leave it because it's all right. And they're really reticent to up our lease, and I couldn't quite figure it out. Well, they decided that they're going to go another direction with their house, and so when I asked them, it was barely 30 days before our lease was up, and they said, well, we had to move. And I was just, devastated. We'd only been there a year. And I don't know, I thought we were friends or something. I don't know, it sort of blindsided me. So maybe that's why I was so devastated. It took me a minute to get over. I was really angry. So this new friend of mine, I told her, because she's my friend and she knows everybody and everybody. She's been in the neighborhood for 20 plus years. Anyway, I told her, not so much because I wanted her to fix the situation, because I didn't. I'm a grown-up. But I told her because I wanted to stay here, and I thought if she knew, we were willing to move wherever in the state just so that we could stay near to these new friends, but that couldn't be our total determining factor because, we have to take care of ourselves. So, but my goal was I really did want to stay here. And I hadn't quite started this other friendship with another friend of mine that I've met since I've been here too. I was just right on the edge of starting a friendship with her. And she is so fun. She has a business online, and that deals with going to thrifting and stuff like that because she buys stuff and resells it. She's super smart and so funny. We have very similar sense of humor, and oh my gosh, we just totally laugh and make fun of stuff. And we kind of grew up the same way. She's a horse person, and so we have that in common. And anyway, I love her to death. And over the last year, I think to myself, we almost moved out of state. I'd have missed this woman so much. I didn't even know at the time. Anyway, so I went to this other friend of mine, and I explained to her what was going on. And because she knows a lot of people in the area, I thought, well, maybe she could put her ear to the ground and let us know, because I was always looking online, kind of thinking that these other people weren't going to renew our lease for whatever reason. And I could see how hard it was to try and find a place up here, a place we could afford. There was places up here, but heck, if I could afford it. Anyway, so I went over to her house, and I was pretty sad, but I was trying to keep that in check because I really just needed her to put her ear to the ground. And here's the cool part. The people that we were renting our house from, they gave us 6 months to find a new place, which was really kind of them. They didn't have to do that. And that was very nice. And I'm sure it was convenient for them, right? But we had 6 months. But again, all of a sudden, I'm not wanted. I don't want to stay where I'm not wanted. That's kind of how it felt to me. Of course, I have lots of ghosts about that not being wanted stuff. So I was like, I got to get on this. I got to make this work really fast because I just want to be where I'm wanted. Anyway, so in the meantime of all this, I'm in a book club. So I'm meeting, and it's just women in the book club, and I'm meeting women, and in the book club we talk about stuff, but we always end up talking about our belief systems and our religion, and well, I don't have religion, but their religion, and then we talk about our philosophies and honor and integrity and things like that. And so I'm getting to know some of the women in the neighborhood that invited me to this book club, and we read the book and we discuss it. And so when I went over to my other friend, and I'm leaving everybody's name out on purpose because it's not fair for me to say their names, but so I went and told her what had happened, and she was like, I could see it hit her, and she's like, you can't leave, you just can't leave. And I was like, wow, that was an interesting response. And you know how you feel, but you really don't know how other people feel unless they express it, and even then. So she's just like, you can't leave. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to move out of the area. And I was like, wow, that's very, very cool. And, I've had people say stuff like that to me before, but then nothing happens, right? They don't do anything. They're just telling you their emotions. So she tells me not to leave and not to do this stuff. And I was like, well, I kind of get it. And I told her, I'm like, I got to go where we can function, and she understood that. Not 2 hours later, I'm not kidding. It might have been 2 hours. We were looking at the place we're living in right now. I know, it was amazing. So she asked me some questions about what we were looking for. And, we've always wanted to have a garage. I mean, where we came from, you kind of absolutely had to have a garage. And we don't require a lot, but, we didn't want to be right on top. We didn't want to live in the city because we'd been living in the country now for a year. And my guy figured out that is really cool. It's really cool. You don't have to deal with anybody else's noise. You don't have to deal with, it's just cool. You just walk outside in the morning and have a cup of coffee on your porch in your pajamas. And I mean, you could do it in the city, but anyway. So he agreed that we wanted to live in the country, and further out the better. And so they were like, well, this place isn't as big and it's not quite finished and all this other stuff. And we're like, okay, well, let's just take it. And I was kind of hesitant. I was like, ooh, it's kind of like an apartment, but not. It's almost as big as our other house. So, I mean, and I was judging it before I even saw it. And then I said, okay, let's just go take a look at it. And so we come out here, and I was a little hesitant. I walk inside, and I could see that the craftsmanship was on par, but better. I mean, it was good. It's really good. It's brand new. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know really. The only thing I knew about the people that owned this place is the woman was in my book club, and we had been friendly to each other, but we hadn't really been friends, And we were just in book club together, and we talked about things, and I really liked the way she saw the world, and I liked how kind-hearted she is, and beautiful, and just like a lovely human. And she was always patient with me, and that was the other thing, because I can get really worked up when I talk about injustice and dishonor and things like that. Anyway, so we come over here, and she's very nice to us, and we were just walking around, and I could see my guy was pretty hesitant because, it's smaller and stuff. Now, the other house we were in, we had upstairs and downstairs. We had a basement. Basement was unfinished, but it was basically storage, and we had a garage. And it was basically storage. So, because we were working down there doing soap and stuff, but it was just too cold. So we had to run heaters and stuff, and we ran into problems with soap dough quality and things like that. And I dumped a bunch of soap dough last year because it was too cold where we made it, and it just didn't. Anyway, I learned a lot. I learned even more. I didn't even know I could learn more about soap dough, but I did. And so we went back and forth, and then a guy and I went back. She was very nice, and she goes, well, you think about it. So we went back, and I started laying the place out in my mind about how it would look, like what we were up to, like how we could use it for ourselves. And the minute we started to envision it, we were like, oh yeah, that's totally going to work. It's totally going to work, and we're going to save money. And we'll be, because the other issue was we don't want to have to move in a year. And she was like, we don't want you to move in a year. Because she already knew, she'd been to our house before, and she already knew how we lived and how we handled ourselves and what we did and stuff. So she knew a little bit about us. So we decided to take it, and then they had to finish it. It turns out the people that own this house, her husband, who's become friends with me and mine, is awesome. Crazy. They're a crazy awesome couple. So, and what I mean by awesome is just funny and kind and cares about us, and we've become friends. And I just didn't even know I could have so many unique, quality people in my life. So we decided to move out sooner versus later. As a matter of fact, we ended up paying 2 rents on both places for a while, just so we could, have a nice transition and move over. I mean, for crying out loud, we don't take vacations or anything. So that was kind of like, we just figured, well, the cost of doing life stuff. And thank goodness it all worked out. But here's the other part about this. Oh my gosh. And I probably mentioned this in another video, but I'll say it again. So I told my friend who helped us find this place that didn't want us to move. And, you know, all these people started stopping by our other house and asking us when we were going to move because they wanted to help us. And we were like, you know how people say that? They go, oh yeah, we want to help. And it comes to the day, and, you know, I've moved like 60 times in my life. Come on. I know that story. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll help you move. And then it comes to the day and we're like, oh, I'm sorry, I was with my boyfriend or whatever. I forgot or whatever. And then so I've learned not to rely on anybody and just to do it myself. And maybe get 1 or 2 people that I know I can count on if they want to help. But mostly when we lived in the city, we just hired people because they would show up. So I was sort of skeptical, and not judgment of the people that I live around, my experience. Like, that's all my baggage. But let me just tell you, we had so many people show up with trailers and everything, because we went and got a moving van, and the moving, you know, U-Haul didn't cost that much, but we had some big pieces, and I had been running things. So while my guy was functioning in the house and doing all the things that needed to get done, I was packing boxes up and packing the car up and running it over to the new place. And so I moved like all the boxes, books, everything. I moved almost all the boxes. I mean, he helped a bit, but, you know, we had to batten down the hatches and do some other stuff. So he was home doing those other things because I wanted all those little ticky-tacky things over here and done with. I didn't want other people having to do that if there was going to be even any other people. Just like I can't move a sofa, so that's kind of what I needed, is help with the sofa. Anyway, so the day came, and we might have company. No, I don't think it's us. Anyway, the day came, and we had so many people show up.